Right, so these punks,
Yes.
I don't know if they wanted money or they wanted something more sexual.
Wow.
But it's a lucky thing I had my pieces.
Your pieces.
My guns.
Oh.
I wrote a script this time, so hopefully it goes better. Alright, today we're talking about guns. These guns. Pew 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 pew. So gun concepts have been around basically since the inception of gloving. It's popularized by a lot of old heads, such as Gummy. They've fallen out of favor within the recent gloving meta, especially since a lot of us are focusing a lot more on the technical side of things. So it was never really expanded upon besides the basic pew 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 pew. But today I'm going to show you a modern update on a very classic concept. We're going to go through some of my thought processes and mentality when I'm designing and executing my gun moves. And I hope it gives you some insight into what's going through my head when I'm thinking about not only the guns, but also some of my showmanship, my theatrics, my storytelling, all that good stuff. So generally when I am designing a gun, there are three things that I think about. First, there's the shape, then there is the mechanics, then there is the shot execution. First, the shape. And it's pretty straightforward. What does a gun actually look like? Think about how your hands are going to be replicating and emulating the different parts of a gun. Generally, it's going to be the handle and the barrel. Second, think of the mechanism of a gun. Guns have a lot of different moving parts. You got the clip that slides out, you got the slide that slides, you got the hammer, you got safeties. It's kind of what makes guns fun. They're like very technical and they make a lot of cool sounds. And finally, shot execution. Think about what happens when a gun is actually fired. You got the recoil, the gun blowing back. Think about muzzle flashes. Think about the slides cocking back to eject shells. There's a lot going on and a lot of different details that if you keep a close eye on, those are things that you can try to emulate when you're designing your own guns. A very simple example that we can understand. Oh, damn. Why are you sending me notifications? Discord. Shut up, Discord. I love you, worldwide glovers, but I have to mute you. How do I mute things? I don't really use Discord. I just started using it. It's just so terrible. Okay, there we go. Alright, to see these three rules in action, let's look at base concept that we're all familiar with, the classic Glover's finger gun. Pew, 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 pew. Rule number one, the shape. It's pretty obvious, this, or maybe even this. But yeah, this is a pretty iconic thing just amongst kids. Like, what kid in their life hasn't made a little finger gun? Pew, 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 pew. It's pretty recognizable. Rule two, you got mechanisms. I mean, again, very simple, but everyone recognizes the hammer, even if they don't know what it's called. I actually had to Google it today. Pew, 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 pew. And third, you got the shot execution. I mean, this is very simple. Just a quick recoil, bang, 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 bang. But also, just to give it a little flavor, you had people putting their hands out and use it as almost like a firing range. Pew, 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 pew. Again, it's very simple, but even back then, even if they weren't aware of it, they were following these three rules. So now I'm gonna give you two of my own guns I'm gonna give you the basics of how they work, and we're gonna see how the three rules apply to the designs and how you can execute them. And you guys can add whatever flavors and your own mechanisms and thought processes behind this when you go into the lab. Just make sure to tag me because I want to see what you guys come up with. First, we're going to look at Steamboy's pistol. Very simple in design. It's an update on the classic finger gun, but I would choose to do two fingers just so that we get a little bit more of that depth that you get from a handgun. But then we're going to take our hands, have it closed up like this, thumb out, and we're just going to cock it in. It acts as a barrel. Now again, this works because you got the barrel, you got the handle, you got the hammer, all good stuff. In terms of mechanisms, we got a couple in place. So first we got the slide. Again, this is pretty recognizable for anyone who's played FPSs or whatever. And then one thing I like to do is I like to actually start back here, and then I like to flip the thumb as if I'm letting go of the safety. So we got two mechanisms right there. And for rule 3, the shot execution, I just like to cock it back, and as I'm cocking back, I like to let the barrel slide back. For actual gun people, I am very sorry if none of this is accurate. I'm not a gun person. Okay, example 2, shotgun. You got one hand, which is gonna act as the barrel. I use, again, the classic 2-finger gun, and then we add the barrel. Now, I recommend extending it out and not keep it close, because keeping it out not only gives it that bigger feel that you get from a shotgun, but is also more dynamic. And as long as you're using isolations or simple miming techniques, the audience is gonna understand that this is a gun. They're gonna be able to use their own imaginations and fill in the blanks of what you're trying to do. That's what a lot of great mimers do to start with. Now, for mechanics, I just have a simple pump action. I like to have the entire gun go back, because even if it's not realistic, we're playing with animation here. It's not just about getting the details of reality, but learning how to apply them and give them that splash of color and life that we do as artists. Remember, we're playing by the rule of cool here. And then for shot execution, very simple. You just gotta have a big blowback. Make sure to pump that shotgun between each shot. Now, I've done different variations on this. Sometimes I'll throw out a whip. And sometimes I'll just literally flip my hand over real quick and just put my hand full out and then pull it back in real quick so it looks something like this. That variation works really well if you're going with a really blinky set. So it'll look kind of like a combination between a muzzle flash and the pellets just spraying out. So side note, this concept is particularly great using the accelerometer just to give it that little bit of animation flavor. The Excel will go into the second threshold as you're doing stuff like cocking your gun, showing off the mechanisms, and of course, like when you're firing your gun out, it just gives the animation a little bit of extra life. If you have chips that have accelerometer modes, give them a try. Test out the different thresholds, see what works best for your style and the way you flow. So yes, now we've built some guns, and I'm going to give you a couple of notes on how to use them most effectively. Avoid some of the pitfalls that I've gone through when I'm trying to pull these types of moves off. So keep in mind that gun concepts are something that you have to build up to. You want to show them building your gun, you want to have enough time to show off the mechanisms, you want to have enough time to be able to get the shot execution out there. So the best time to use gun concepts would be during a build-up and then do the shot execution right when the drop hits, or towards an end of a drop. Build your gun up and at that final beat, get that shot off. I found that there are times when I build my gun at the wrong times and I fire it off at the wrong moment and the concept just ends up looking really silly. It just takes away from the show. And I've also found that if you build it at the wrong time, such as like if you do it too early during a build-up, you could be there for a long time fiddling with your gun and you would have to use other concepts to kind of like space it out. So timing is very important. Don't be fooled by the false drop. Try to hit it right at the actual drop so it has the most kinetic power. So a great example of someone basically following all 3 of these rules would be Puppet. During his Diamond Gun video, he has that final gun at the end. Yeah, it's great. First of all, the shape is very cool. I would never have thought that using a 45 as a end of a barrel will work, but it kind of gives it that sci-fi fantasy vibe. Works out real well. Not only that, he's got that red dot sight right there. Yeah, it gives it that extra touch of flavor. It works not only as a shape, but as a mechanism. And it's a mechanism that doesn't even move, but it works because it really gives you that red dot sight feel to it. That extra blink that it gives off kind of works as its own mechanism. You know what it is, you know what part it's supposed to act as. And the shot execution is great. He does it at the exact right moment of the song. If you haven't seen the full video, I definitely recommend you check it out. You should be watching Puppet's videos anyway. And that's it. This is my second tips and tricks video. So I hope you like it. Let me know if there's anything that you would like me to cover. Let me know if there's anything I can work on. I'm still trying to improve this process, so hopefully I'll get it down soon. I even wrote a script today, see? And yeah, so that's it. I think it's a good time for an example light show. What do you think, Dan? You want to throw a light show?
Anyway, I started blasting. Bah!
Wow.
Bah!